Hello, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. My name is Frank Lavinia, and today is High Impact Tuesday. So, what you may ask, High Impact Tuesday? Well, it covers kind of the things going on in our world that have the most impact, and it's not for impact slackers. Some people will get that joke, some won't. Perhaps I will write a joke one day, but that day is not today. Traffic. Impact Tuesday, Max Impact Tuesday. My bad. Here you go. Roll the cool graphic. All right. As you can tell, I do love my After Effects and special effects. But today here in the U.S., it's election day. It's midterm election. So basically halfway through a president's term, you get to reelect all members of Congress and about, I think, a third of the Senate. So I voted today and very proud of that. And I'm looking at my other monitor and I'm seeing the dogs going crazy in it. So, yeah, tennis ball made its way out there. So yesterday, I wanted to. I didn't want to leave the impression that I was down on kind of power apps. I'm not. I love power apps. The point I was trying to make, based on some feedback I got, may not have landed the way I had originally intended. What the original intent was is that just because something's low code or no code doesn't mean it's immune from kind of, for lack of a better term, DevOps pipeline or governance. Really is really what matters, right? So I have that problem with a lot of gadgets I have around the house, right? Alexa's I tend to, and she just activated. They tend to. I've had governance problems with them actually, like in the sense that we recently moved, right? So half the echoes in the house are still think that they're in town. The new ones, half the new ones, not new ones, half of them know that, about the, we're not in Germantown anymore. We're up in Carroll County. So it's interesting. So when I ask for the weather, she does at least tell me, and I know that, gee, I need to change that. But what I do wish, and maybe I'm wrong, is that there was an easy way to tell the devices. It's the same thing problem with Fire TV, right? And it's interesting, as IT gets more consumerized, you kind of have these prop up. Now, maybe it's just me. Maybe I have a lot of monitors. Maybe I just devices, and I'm kind of ahead of the curve of the rest of the world, which is, makes sense. Not the first time I've been an edge case. But let's see. Alexa, what's the name of this Amazon Echo?
The name is Echo Show.
Oh, so does tell me. Okay, that's good to know. So this way I can go in through the Alexa app and change the name of the device. That's good to know. I did not think of that. See, you learn something new every day, and that was not scripted. I totally did not know that. I just didn't think to ask the actual device. Speaking of high impact, here's an interesting book. Hold on one second while I play some music. I need to have like a temporary, like let me. All right, I'm back, and it's always funny. I always forget to put the Alexa on do not disturb. So in any case, I wanted to talk to you about this book, and I'm going to do a more in-depth view at some point in a review in the future. But this is a great book. It's really kind of covers everything you would need to know. And there it is. Never ends. You can always tell this is all right. Let me finish this before there's another interruption. This is a really good book, although I found the title just a touch misleading. Now, full disclosure, Pact gave me this for free to review it. I want to thank you, the good folks at Pact. Fun fact: my one and only book was actually published through Pact. It was a Silverlight book. Came out 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago. And here's one of the dogs. You want to come up and say hello to the people? Come on, come on, come on. See? This is one of these, very sweet, and he wants to know why I'm not outside playing with him. Yes, can you go down? I'll play with you in a few. Okay. All right. Where are we going with this? I really enjoyed this book. This is a great book. It talks about basically the title is misleading. Now, if this said data cleaning and exploration for machine learning, I think this would have been a much more accurate title of this. I mean, does talk about. My assumption was that you would use data and you would use AI to help you clean up data. Now, thus far, the parts that I've read is really talking about cleaning up raw data for use in machine learning. And a lot of this is a really good review in terms of regression algorithms, as well as SVM, support vector machine, and really mean stuff I've read so far. So I'm not completely done with it, but thus far, if this said machine learning, this book would be perfect, right? But it's a really good book. If you're getting it to like find out, again, I hate doing a review without finishing the book, but thus far, it's really been really good in terms of talking about clustering, k-means, that sort of thing. But it's not really talking about it does get into kind of implementing these algorithms, but if you want an all-up good review of the algorithms and kind of the quandaries and mechanisms that you would do for cleaning up data, like fixing mixing values, that sort of thing, this so far has been a great read. It definitely I found it as somebody who already knows a review. And I do wonder, would somebody who's not familiar with the field, would they feel a little lost? Again, I try to do whether or not I get them for free. Usually I don't. But I would say this is not a full book review. I'm finished. I am about 2/3 through. So that having been said, I would buy this anyway because it's a good overview of various statistical processing algorithms and visualizations too. I learned there too. It's like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. So in terms of like, I'm thinking of ways, other ways to do this. So if I had one, be that this is really for, not with, and it reminds me of Civic Tech, but in any case, yeah, that I like the book. I really enjoyed it. I do have another book I want to talk about, but I haven't quite read it yet. Although I do want to read it before Thanksgiving. And why? Are you saying, Frank, why do you want to read? I'm doing my William Shatner. Why do you want to read this before Thanksgiving? I'll tell you why. I am going to reInvent. Amazon reInvent is kind of like, it's kind of like Build, Inspire, and what's the other one? It used to be called the Build, Inspire. and Ignite. That's what it is. It's like Build, Inspire, and Ignite all rolled up into one. They take over the entire town of Las Vegas. So my process for the go-to-market strategies for Rhodes is going to be one of the talks. So Red Hat OpenShift Data Science, and our work that we did with Boston is going to be one of the breakout sessions. And accordingly, I have the opportunity to go. And I've always wanted to go to a reInvent, although having spent most of the last decade at Microsoft, that would not happen. It would be very hard to as a failed person or to wrangle a ticket to reInvent. The optics on that would be a little weird. Though I imagine there are Microsoft people, because Amazon actually is a big customer of Microsoft. As strange as that is, SQL Server. I know the SQL Server team usually has some presence at these events, so it's not entirely without precedent. Although I never worked with teams. All of which to say is that this book is called. I'm going to butcher the title, but it's another packed title. It's basically getting started with quantum computing. I am going to read that. My reading backlog has gotten really big. I spent not the entire of October, that's really dramatic, but I spent a good chunk of the month of October fighting off sinus infection, sinus head, and dealing with family members who have also had that. So I myself again, which is fantastic. You probably look back and you can look at the data, right? If you look at the data in terms of my live streams, they went really down in October because I was just so miserable and in pain. And there's only but so much Sudafed that can do for you. I'm thankful that I did have access to Sudafed to take some of the sinus pressure off. That, unless there's any questions in the chat, highly recommend this book. Maybe my one gripe with it will be fixed as I get the final third of it, but I really good book, and so they're outside. So one of the things that I did into governance, right, is have one of those home surveillance systems that for the entire house. You go like Sam's Club or whatever, right? Not professionally installed or anything like that. And what's cool about it is I can kind of keep tabs of what's going on around the house. Not that I'm worried about crime or anything like that. In the old neighborhood, there was some sketchy looking guy that was just saw walking around my backyard in the windows. And I noticed him, and he was kind of alarmed that I noticed him. And I said, like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And so he goes, oh, nothing. I'm like, well, you're not doing nothing. You're peeking through the windows. Like, that's not nothing. Like, and we have, behind woods and stuff. There's no way. So he took a picture. And I'm like, I want to get one of these camera things because. So I did, and in the move it was forgotten. Like, it was one of the many boxes, right, of all the cameras and pieces and parts and whatnot. Then one day at the new house, we had an Instacart delivery, and the dogs, we have like 4 acres, right? So the dogs are out a lot. And so what ended up happening was one of the dogs, or possibly two, based on kind of who was out and the evidence, got basically ate, I think, about a 5-pound package of ground beef, and and got away with the rotisserie chicken or two. And that was like, we really need a better way to manage this. And I was like, packing boxes. And I found the central unit. Why don't I set it up? So basically, I set that up again, but I had to reset it because I forgot the password. All these things that, if there's an installation, probably there'd be another way around it. But that having been, as we get more IoT devices, as we get more smart devices, as we get more invested in technology, the governance aspect. Now, granted, I'm probably ahead of, when we had our first wireless network, my wife, we had like 40, 50 devices or 20 devices, I think is what it was. It was like, wow, how would you have so many? Now I think the average is 20, right? Now we're like at 40 some odd. And, we are an edge case, but I think also a leading indicator in terms of IoT is going to look like. Home security systems, voice activated cameras in the supermarket, and you're starting to see the price come down. A system like this that is accessible used to be really beyond, it was well over $1,000 or more. You think back to the old analog. One of my dad's last jobs was he was working on closed circuit television systems. These are all things that you would not have been accessible to the average person. They were multi-$1,000 systems. This is the I think I splurged a $100 setup at Sam's Club. I don't really have it now for security. I actually now have it so I can watch the dogs. I can see if there's a delivery truck coming by. I can see if the dogs are bothering anyone. I can see if they decide to run off and chase deer. I can at night, it has night vision, so I can track the wildlife actually. So this is to say is that there's really no good governance model around IDs. And what I'd really love to do would be able to tie this to the family Office 365 tenant, where you can just log in with that. If anyone out there within the sound of my voice knows a thing or two about these IP cameras, and like, is there a way I can kind of tap into them? One of the things I was going to do, I was talking to Kristen Kerr about this. So she's a famous data scientist, and her big project of the day, I think she kicked off a new one, is that she has a OpenCV and computer vision model pointed at her front of her house, because I guess they live off a cul-de-sac or whatever. The bus comes this way before it comes that way to pick up her kids. So she has this for it and then send an alert through the house. I would like to have the same thing. So if the Instacart comes by, I know to make sure that the dogs are not here, right? Amazon trucks, that sort of thing, visitors. I would love to be able to do that. And I've been kind of like whiteboarding it. I'm pointing the whiteboard like you can see it, but kind of whiteboarding it. And there's multiple options. The easy option would be to get a video capture card, hook it off the back of the system, so it's watching whatever the camera is seeing. That has some dependencies. The ideal situation is that I would query it every so many times a minute, the IP camera feed raw off the device, as opposed to kind of relying on the monitor output on the central unit. So if anyone has any thoughts on this, I've not done a lot of investigations. I've been kind of doing some back of the napkin type ideas. I do have a Raspberry Pi. I do have a USB HDMI input. They used to call them Genlocks, but you know what I mean, a video encoder. So I'm pondering kind of what would that look like? What would that system look like? And again, I should probably set up some kind of Kanban board or something where I could track that. My experience last week, when just went hog wild and started spraying hundreds of posts to the blog in the middle of the night, I realized I do need to have a better governance model. Now, what that's going to look like, it's probably going to look like a OneNote notebook I can share with Andy, and he can be like, okay, this is what's going on. And if I'm on vacation or whatever, he can kind of pick it up and run with it. It's just an interesting thought experiment, which it's one of those, forget about it, stops working, then suddenly it becomes crucial again. Something my dad used to tell me, he's like, you never get rid of problems, you just trade up the better problems. So instead of me wondering how I was going to hit 30 blog posts a month, and now it's I have all these automation tools, the podcast and all that, I have new problems. And I think that is a sign of life, a sign of growth, is that you're always coming up with new problems. So that's my deep thought for today. Hope you're having a good one. Don't see any comments in the queue right now, but thank you for your feedback about, no, I wasn't dunking on Power Apps. It was really just simply a matter of just a no code. You think that there's no governance. You think that you don't need a DevOps pipeline, term DevOps. You do need some kind of governance model around even your low code, no code stuff. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. You have a fantastic one. A like, subscribe, share, whatever. Amazon reInvent. Love to meet up. I plan to do a couple of streams. I know Andy is. I think he's doing a couple of there, and I know he's ideas. Be sure to hit me up on any of the following social networks, Frank, and it's not letting me do that. There we go. Check me out at franksville.com, datadriven.tv, impactquantum.com, and that's all I got. I hear a storm of kids coming this way, so I'm going to cut the stream early. Stream.